Good morning, everyone. This is Legacy School Year 7 History, Lesson 11. Our lesson's objectives will be to talk about the immediate effects of the Norman conquest. We will learn what the harrying of the North was, and we will know the story of Hereward the Wake. Let's revise a little bit. Last time in class, we spoke about the times after Edward the Confessor, the Anglo-Saxon English king, died. What happened after that, we talked about that in class. Immediately, Harold Godwinson, his family member, although not blood relative, becomes King of England. He was also an Anglo-Saxon. Immediately after that, the Viking Harald Hardrada and the French William, Duke of Normandy, attacks England to claim the country. So there are two more nationalities fighting for the English throne. Altogether, there are three: one Anglo-Saxon, one Viking, and one French. Now, Harold Godwinson splits his army because he has two enemies coming from two different directions, one in the north and one in the south. Godwinson defeats Hardrada in the north, but suffers heavy losses, and without any break, without any rest, he needs to march south because William, after the winds had changed, arrived at the English coast. He meets him at the battle at Hastings, where the battle starts on 14th of October 1066. After an initial success, if you remember, I showed you pictures of the Bayeux Tapestry, where the Anglo-Saxon soldiers were shown standing up on a hill, clearly having a vantage point, and in the beginning they were shooting at the French down the hill easily. They were easy targets. But when William pretended to flee, to run away, the formation broke, and William could take advantage. In this battle, Harold is killed, and William the Conqueror becomes King of England, changing English history forever and England forever. Now, after the Battle of Hastings, of course, immediately William is crowned William the First. He becomes William the First of England. He gets his crown on Christmas Day, 1066, at Westminster Abbey. Of course, the Norman knights that were guarding the coronation, when they heard cheers from outside, they thought that this is a rebellion. So they massacred people and burnt houses around Westminster Abbey, and all the villagers were killed. And of course, it was a very, very brutal beginning to a very brutal reign of William I. King William I ruled ruthlessly, and any revolt was brutally avenged. Villages were burnt if there was any dissent, and people were slaughtered. So basically, England's 2 million Anglo-Saxon inhabitants were under the brutal military occupation of about 20,000 Normans. But they had the upper hand. They had better weapons, and they were trained better than the Anglo-Saxon inhabitants. Of course, right after the king, William becomes King of England, he wanted to reward his Norman knights, and he gave them land that previously belonged to the English noblemen. So basically, he took the land from Anglo-Saxons and gave this land to his own people. Now, William established a royal court with French noblemen who spread around the country, naturally spreading their language as well. I already mentioned that to you in class, that languages change when they blend, mix, or cultures live together. They influence each other. Okay, of course, names like Neville, Beaufort, and Sinclair, which are common names now, came from the Normans. Now, another immediate effect of the Norman conquest was that the Normans started building castles, okay, on their land. So each French landowner or nobleman that was given land by William I started building castle to protect himself and to protect the French rule. And the first type was the so-called Motte and Bailey castle, which was very quick and easy to build. So a ditch was dug, and the earth would create an artificial hill. Then a wooden tower would be built on top. Okay, and gradually these would be replaced with strong stone castles. I'll show you here in the next picture. So first of all, this is the Motte and Bailey. Okay, you can see this. Okay, just there was a ditch where this is the moat or moat now. Okay, with the water. Okay, this is the water. This ditch was dug, and then the earth that came out from this digging created the artificial hill. And of course, on the artificial hill, a tower was built. So people had a vantage point. They saw the enemy coming, and the water, it was the ditch, this moat was filled up with water, and there was of course a gate and a bridge. It was easy to defend this way. All right, then, as I told you earlier, later on, of course, this structure became a stronger castle. Here you can see a much stronger castle, but the moat is still there. You can see the moat with the filled up, like a ditch filled up with water, okay, around the castle. It's an excellent way to protect the castle. The walls are higher. There are loads of towers. You can see to see the enemy coming, and there is a gate around it with a drawbridge, further protecting the entry. Even later, another version of these Norman castles was the concentric one. So you can see one set of walls around the city, and you can see another set of walls around it. This is concentric. So two walls surrounding the castle itself, right? Okay, so this was the evolution of the Roman castles. I would like to show you a couple of pictures. You can see how nicely they are protected with the moat, with the water. Of course, very difficult to get there. High, very strong walls. Some other Norman castles built from the 11th century up to the 14th, 15th, and obviously each time they were rebuilt, they were maintained, and walls were added. Okay, so this is how they protected themselves and the French king and kings. Now, of course, William was not very popular. It's just natural that there will be rebellions against the French, even if he is very brutal. There were still people who wanted to rebel against him, and they tried. For example, some of these rebellions, 1067-68, so immediately after his crowning, Edric the Wild in Wales, okay, there was a rebellion, or Godwinson's sons started the rebellion in 1069. Also, 1069 there was a rebellion in the north, and then 1070 King Sweyn of Denmark and Hereward the Wake, we will know about him later on. He's also known as Hereward the Outlaw or Hereward the Exile, started the rebellion against William and the French rule. All right, you can see the question below. What do you think William's reaction was to these rebellions? Now, I already told you that he was very brutal. I mentioned it last time in class, and we mentioned what happened when he was crowned. Okay, when his guards heard the cheers from outside Westminster Abbey, the reaction was he killed everyone. Now, of course, you can guess that any rebellion was met with brutal force from William the Conqueror. Let's talk about the harrying of the North. It's a famous event in the history of England in the 11th century. We already know that William used terror to crush these rebellions. Now, in 1069, rebels in the north killed the Normans in Durham. They killed them viciously, very brutally. Okay, they also captured York. We know York as the as one of the main centers in the in East Anglia. Now, there in York, they were joined by a large Danish army. So it was the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings together fighting against William. Now, William marched north, of course, and the first thing he did, he forced the Danish to flee, so he got rid of the Viking enemy. Now, William destroyed the area completely. Okay, now you can see his brutal force. Because the North rebelled against him, he burned the houses and the crops. Herds of animals and stocks of food were burnt. Okay, so people were left to die of slow starvation. So those people who were not killed in the fight, they were left there to die because there was no food. Everything was burnt. The stocks were burnt. Even the harvested food was completely destroyed. So unfortunately, history books or historians from that time say that survivors had to eat even dogs and cats. How terrible. And this episode in Norman English history is called the Harrying of the North. So William wanted to teach a lesson to the people of England. Now, another rebellion was very famous for Hereward the Wake. It was a famous rebel, also known as Hereward the Outlaw or Hereward the Exile. Let's learn a little bit about him. Now, according to a Latin language manuscript from the 12th century, he was exiled at the age of 18 because he was very disobedient with his father. Okay, he was very disruptive, did not respect his father, so his own father exiled him. Now, he was declared as an outlaw by Edward the Confessor before the Battle of Hastings, so he was not in favor of the Anglo-Saxon kings. Now, there are various stories in this Latin manuscript about him. Apparently, he had a fight with a huge bear. He also rescued a Cornish from Cornwall. Okay, this is an area in England, a Cornish prince from an unwanted marriage. But like many old stories, we don't know if these stories are true at all. Now, he became a mercenary. Now, we understand mercenary, hopefully. For those who don't know the word, mercenary is a soldier who fights for money. Not because this is his cause or he believes in the cause, but because he is paid. That's a mercenary. So apparently he became a mercenary and joined this rebellion. And this is how history books talk about him. He was based in the Isle of Ely, surrounded by marshes. Okay, he was a very strong and very courageous fighter. It is said, we don't know if it's true, it is said that there was a secret passage to this island through the marshes, and this was shown to the Norman soldiers by a traitor. And the Normans eventually captured the leaders of the rebellion. Brutally, of course, as they are, they chopped off hands and feet of the rebels. They poked eyes out. The Latin manuscript that I mentioned to you earlier, speaking about Hereward the Wake, says that he escaped. We don't know exactly. All right, so your homework is to take notes from the slides. Please read pages 22-23 and answer your questions on page 23. As I am not sure if you are regularly doing your homework, please send me a photo of your questions. If the school does not open, I will send you videos about the correct answers as well, hopefully. And inshallah, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.